then check theirs also, and you can discuss it. Like, hey, I see your blood pressure is also a bit high. Then they should also go to the GP, and that's most family. But next time I'll bring the.
So I have questions.
Yes.
Because some people think if you eat too much sugar, then you get sugar. But I think some people, some people said it's not like that. Some people doesn't eat sugar, but the sugar level is
exactly.
How is it?
I think if it comes to the blood sugar, it's multiple factors. There are some people indeed that can eat sugar all the day. They can eat everything they want. They never get diabetes or anything. But you also have people indeed, if they take too much of sugars and stuff, they get high sugar. And we also have a group where we know that it's familiar, so it's in the family. They're just genetically prone to get high blood, to get the sugar. It's nothing they do, because they can eat really the healthiest of healthiest food, but still they get the sugar. And that's really genetics. There's nothing they can do about it. And usually, what you'll know is that also they'll say that in their family there are multiple, and their moms, their sisters, or their brothers, they also have high sugar. And that's something, because I think when you hit a certain age, if you're 50 or so, sometimes people go to the GP yearly for just a regular cardiovascular risk management, and they go to the GP to check their blood pressure, sugar, and some every year or so. And then they also discuss the lifestyle and things like that. And they also discuss if you have a family history of sugar, heart diseases, or anything. So sometimes really you can do nothing about it. And next time I'll bring the blood pressure measurement. But if I bring it and it's high, then you have a problem.
I have a very, very important question. There is one of these is in London. Her daughter died 13-year-old girl recently. In court ago in London. And the cause of her death was leukemia, the cancer in the blood. And it pains me a lot. But I was thinking about so many things, like a girl of 13 years. How can she develop this serious cancer in the blood that causes her death? 13-year-old. Well, according to us, I hear something that maybe our own mistakes, our own causes can maybe develop that kind of cancer. A girl of 13 years died.
You usually see leukemia in younger people, right? In children.
Can you tell us something about it?
Like I said, with any form of cancer, it has to do with regeneration of the cells. So that's the same thing with our blood cells. And with younger children, our blood cells have a stages that they go through. So they have growth stages, and when they age, they come into our bodies, and that's what we use to transport our oxygen and everything. I'm talking about the red blood cells now. But that's the same with also with our white blood cells, our cells that use when you get a cut that are used to generate the blood plates. So the same goes with leukemia, because it starts with the bone marrow, where the younger cells of the blood cells, the range is attacked, and unfortunately with children, with younger children, they also have younger cells in their bone marrow, and we think that them having the more likelihood of them getting leukemia. But there are different forms of leukemia, and even a baby you just born can have cancers. It's really, unfortunately, a mistake in our DNA, and we know with certain cancers that are at a later stage in life are due to sometimes our own lifestyle, or with some, unfortunately, there's nothing that we could have done to prevent or to detect it earlier.
I think with this young girl, like you said, the blood cells are made in your bone marrow, and cancer is copy paste of a mistake in your DNA. And your bone marrow, especially as children, you grow. That's the growth spurt. So eventually you start growing and you only grow like this, but you don't grow like this anymore. And in that stage, especially for young kids with bone and blood cancer, they are at risk because their blood cells and their bones grow exponentially. So if there's a small mistake in that DNA, but the body does not recognize that mistake and it keeps copy pasting that mistake because that person needs to grow, that's when you can get leukemia even at an age where you don't have a bad lifestyle, but it's a really unfortunate mistake of your body that was never recognized. And that's why certain cancers are really bad luck and are more prevalent in young people, and other cancers are also bad luck, but more preventable in older people.
And I think to add on that, because it was a child, I think if there are symptoms, usually you don't think of alarming things, and because you know a child, how can they have? So it may also be that the child already has experienced things, but the child cannot explain it. And I can imagine that parents cannot relate to it, as seeing that it may be something that's wrong. So that is something, if you do notice that your child is tired a lot, dizzy, looks a bit pale or something.
Or gets infections
Every single
time
time,
because
exactly.
your white blood cells attack the infection. So
Yeah.
normal, we all get the flu maybe around this period of. You have certain moments in the year that you know you can get the flu.
Exactly.
Or if you're in an environment where people are sneezing, you won't be surprised if next week you start sneezing as well. But if a kid is sick more than a kid is
And also in the
being able to
summer,
play, or they are constantly under bruises or bleeding much, a normal kid should have some bruises from playing, but not that you look like someone is beating you all the time. If you notice that in your child, that's also a symptom to have them checked, or yourself.
And in this case, I think it's really unfortunate because a lot of people who have leukemia, they do recover from it, but we're not curing every child yet, but they are curing more children with cancer than adults. So I think we're on a good, but we just have to do our best to make sure that we get that 100%. At this point, that's not the case yet. Yeah. If there are any other questions?
Cancer sickness can be something that we call it unfortunate.
Yeah. I think the most people I saw when I was working at the why I always refer to the AVL's, because that is the one of the cancer hospitals in Amsterdam, where they only see people with cancer, and a lot of people were I had a lot of men who were like 21, 22, they had testis carcinoma. And that was really unfortunate because they hadn't done anything, but then once they woke up and had a lot of pain, and then they went to the GP, and then they did ultrasound, and they found a mass in their testis, and then yes, it was thought to spread, so then they had chemotherapy. That are all young men that haven't really lived their lives yet, so they were unfortunately diagnosed with this disease. It's nothing that they could have done. I've seen a lot of female with cervical cancer, with cancer of the muscles, cancer of I even saw Ghanaians with throat cancer, gastric cancer, colon cancer, and I think it's something that we don't talk about, but that doesn't mean that Ghanaians don't have cancer. They are there, but I think because of the taboo that's on cancer, people don't talk about it. I even know a good friend of mine who lost her parents, both parents of cancer, and with her father, she didn't know for years. And because when we noticed that he had cancer, it was already end stage, but he was already living with it for more than 10 or 15 years, but we never knew, because I think it's a parent thing to want to protect your children. So, and if it's also taboo in the community, people won't say. So everybody thought he just recently had it, but he was already he was already living on borrowed time, right? Because he already fought You got operated, got chemo, got immunotherapy, got chemo, got operated, and there was a whole traject before the end stage. So I think if, but it's difficult because it's taboo. If we all would discuss diseases more often, it would be recognized sooner. But then we would also know how to support our brothers and sisters, because they're fighting the fight on their own, because they're not telling anyone. It may that they even not tell their partners. It may that they even don't tell the people surrounding them. So they're fighting this battle all by themselves. And what is important if you do have cancer, I think, is that you have a support system surrounding you, because it's the battle of your life. So if you do that on your own and you have got it, but sometimes it's also necessary to have people surrounding you who take you to the doctor's appointment so that you don't have to do anything by yourself. Because you can imagine if you get bad news and you're the only person sitting there, half goes in, the other half goes out, and then you're home and you're like, I don't know. So that's something as community that we can work on.
Yeah, we need to get away from the shame, because as we say in Trio, free idea, but it's also just to, it's unfortunate that people are too ashamed to tell what they're going through, and also just to inform, like, my brother, my sister, please be aware if you have these things, go to the GP sooner, or because we'll walk around saying, oh, we feel tired, we're not feeling well, we feel tired, we're not, and then they'll get to the hospital, and some people already knew, but then because we didn't know, it's like, oh, they went to the hospital and they died, and they're not taking good care of us. Meanwhile, there's been a whole, there've been treatments, and unfortunately, they couldn't help anymore, or they came in too late, and then it's also unfortunate.
But to end on a positive note, we do also see improvements. As I said, I work in the AMC.
Can I ask one question, please?
Yes.
How often should we go and see our doctors? How often? Like, if
We don't want to say go every time, but if you are worried about your health, it's always good to discuss it with your GP. And it's not like just because you see something on your body that you should run there, but it's always good to, when you're worried, go. It's better to go a couple of times, and if by the second time you still have the same complaints, or the third time you still have the same complaints, it's getting worse, then at least there's documentation of you coming with those complaints.
I think it depends on your complaint. If you have like headache and you go to the GP and your GP checked your headache and it was nothing, okay, and they gave you advices, you've done what they advised, and it's still there, then you have to go back. I think depending on the complaint, if it's your stomach, well, you have stomach pain, well first you look for like 1, 2, 3 weeks and like, oh, but it's not getting better. You make an appointment, they check, they come with advices. Every time if it's coming back, and then I think that's the reason to go to your GP and as well, I did everything you said, but it's still hurting me, or I'm still, so what do you think it is? Is this normal? Well, if it's normal, then you know. But if they're like, oh, well, I thought it would already be gone, well then, that's something you can discuss with your GP. And I think as you get older, if I'm correct, you do have like yearly or every 2-year checkups, so then that's also a moment to discuss things. And if something comes out of it, well then they'll do a follow-up treatment or investigation if necessary.
So this cancer issue, before, we don't have to kind of complaints too much as recently that in the world. So to your advice, what is the main cause that recently we heard a lot about if somebody passed away with the resource, most of them the resource of these cancerous issues. What is the cause of this recent time? Is this because of the food that we eat, pollution, the way we live our life? What is the main cause, as you can advise, that is causing all those?
I think it's multifactorial, so it's definitely the pollution for the air, that's not good for our lungs, it's not good for our veins. the way we eat. If we are more overweight, we can have more problems. But I also think it's because we live longer. So now we might reach the age of 90, but before our grandparents might die by the age of 60. And maybe it was, we don't know the cause, but it could be that they had some sort of cancer. And now we get older, so you have more time to get all kinds of diseases. We live in a society where the lifestyle factors are not as optimal as we would like to see them. We know certain things, but we don't implement them in our lives. And most of those things are innocent in the way that they're not cancer, but if we keep ignoring them, they can become more dangerous than they are by themselves. So I think it's a blessing in disguise. We know more, but some way that kind of panics us and we act less. And before, life was more simple, we're more active, we have healthier foods because it's more natural foods. Now we have all the luxury and convenience of being less active, of getting all the processed foods, of being cool as teenagers and smoking. Those things are not the healthy things. And the beginning of the forming of the diseases, we get high blood pressure, we get sugar, we get maybe some strokes, but if they progress longer, we can also see the more negative effects of developing lung cancer, of developing bowel cancer, of developing breast cancer. So I think it's not something that is, well, it's more prevalent now because we get older. I think it was already there, but we would die before then, with being known to it. But like I said, we do see some positive changes also in our communities. Like I said, I work in the AMC in the gynecological department, and recently I noticed seeing more Surinamese, West African patients coming in, unfortunately, in our cancer department, but more on time than the white counterparts. Because even though in our culture some things are definitely more taboo to discuss, or even acknowledge yourself, let alone discuss with your family or a healthcare professional, I think I am proud to say that the women that do come in are super early because they say, I know my body and something is not right. I keep growing in the size, my belly feels hard, or I'm bleeding when I'm not supposed to bleed. Something is not right, and I'm banging on the doctor's door for them to listen to me. Those women are more in time than the other counterparts who are come in with the diseases in a much later stage. So yes, we do have a lot of work to do. We have to speak amongst ourselves and our society, but positively, we are also on the right track. So it's not all negative, but there is more work to do. And we can be proud of ourselves to talk about these things.
Any other questions?
No questions. Vraag stellen. Q&A.
No, I think if there are no other questions, I'm just looking. No, but it's okay, because then next time we can do it again. Then you guys have the time to check your hypertension and blood sugar. Make sure it's good. And then prepare your questions. And then I'll ask you ladies again if you would like to join us. And I think today we heard interesting things about the breast cancer and the cervical cancer. I think that's also enough information for us to take home with us. And also to discuss it with your in your families and also with the other church members that didn't came today. Because I think every female, young, old, one day they all get the notification for the focus on the shook. So it's good if the ladies of Ebenezer Gospel Ministry, they do participate in the how do you say it? The focus on shook. Like Pastor already said, you notice that cancer is more prevalent. We notice it also. So anything that we can do to prevent that, that would be